Let me reconvene the meeting after recess. Uh, And we're returning to unfinished business. The item for consideration is H.R. 263, offered by Representative Quigley. The relevant subcommittee has been discharged from further consideration, and the bill has already been read and made open to amendment at any point. We have completed general debate and are currently on amendments. Amendment in the nature of a substitute offered by myself has already been deemed as read and open to amendment at any point. Last week, we had begun but not completed consideration of the amendment designated Graves number 4. I will now recognize Representative Graves to offer your amendment number 4 again, and you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Graves is tied up. Were you willing to call up another one?
No, but let me. I wouldn't want to miss a word, and so as a consequence to that, let's if the ranking member would and the staff would let me know about how long we can. I'm certainly willing to wait and get this over with, and I know.
Mr. Chair, he's en route right now.
Huh?
Mr. Graves is en route to the room here now.
We'll wait. I might add there's anticipated votes at 2 o'clock, which would, on the safe side, leaving this meeting at 2:15 or something is probably a time. We wanted to sequence these as they appeared, and if Mr. Graves is en route, I apologize to the members for waiting, but I think at this point that would be appropriate, and if the ranking member is comfortable with that, we'll just wait it out and see what time he gets here.
I am, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate my fellow member of Congress, Mr. Gallego, bringing his children here. I think that that's why we're here. It's a future, and we always welcome our children. It's great. It's great to see.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ranking Member, but that wasn't by circumstance. We're bringing in heavier debaters and someone that doesn't
Standard of behavior goes up.
yep and doesn't have a filter. I think that would be helpful. And appears to have acquired congressional DNA. He loves the microphone. And Let me repeat, last week we began debate but have not completed consideration of the amendment designated Graves number 4. Representative Graves, as Mr. Westerman said, is in the room. I will now recognize Mr. Graves for amendment number 4 again. And sir, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to apologize to the members. I'm very sorry about the delay. We had 2 markups going on this morning at the same time and been scrambling back and forth, but thank you. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for comments you made in the opening statement where you talked about how this committee is not ignoring energy issues and how we are going to pay attention to those. Mr. Chairman, this amendment gives this committee an opportunity to do just that. You know, it's incredible to me to look at what's happening with energy cost and how this is having such a profound impact on every single American. When you add up the cost of increased energy and you add that to inflation cost, which of course energy is the largest driver, there are statistics showing that the average American is spending $5,000 a year more than they were last year. And of course, real wages have gone down, not up, as a result of these policies. Mr. Chairman, this is a direct result of policies by the Biden administration that are causing higher prices. Let me give you an example. In the budget that the Biden administration submitted last year for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, there was a provision in the budget that explicitly said that no project would be funded that would result in decreased cost of consumption of oil and gas. Let me say that again. There was a provision in President Biden's budget that was submitted to Congress that said, we will not fund any project that decreases or would result in decreasing the cost of consumption of oil and gas in the United States. Let me say it again. I said this last week, I'll say it again. Boy, did you do it. You succeeded. We have the highest energy prices we've ever seen. I saw some posters up there earlier, over $5 a gallon. But Mr. Chairman, it's more than that, because people can't afford new vehicles. They can't afford to maintain their vehicles because of what this administration is doing to them. So the AAA, just last month, came out and said there was a 30%, just last month, a 30% increase in roadside assistance calls because people can't even afford to keep up with their cars. Now, this committee has not done a single thing, nothing on energy prices whenever upstream energy is our jurisdiction. We're all about production. At this point during the Obama administration, there had been 50 lease sales, 50 lease sales. I never thought I'd say this. Gosh, I wish President Obama were still here. We have had 0. What is a lease sale? A lease sale is offering public lands and waters for energy production. At this same time, what's happened? We're going to Venezuela, to Iran, and to Saudi Arabia asking them to give us energy while we're blocking Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio, Pennsylvania. We're blocking these other states that have energy resources from producing. Mr. Chairman, who is it that we're representing? We're talking about a bill on big cats right now. Seriously, that's what this bill is. It's about big cats. Now, let me tell you what this committee's jurisdiction is. One of the areas of jurisdiction. We have jurisdiction over National Marine Fisheries Service. Guess why there are hundreds of thousands of barrels a day of domestically produced energy that are being held up, that are already leased, that are already permitted? Guess why, Mr. Chairman? It's because National Marine Fisheries Service has acknowledged they have an error in their LOA process, and they're holding up over a dozen approvals for LOAs that could allow for hundreds of thousands of barrels a day of domestically produced American energy, American jobs, American economic activity, could allow that to be produced. And how many hearings have we had on that? 0. Yet we had 70-something members of Congress write a letter and say, you've got to fix this. So I'm going to say that again. Within our committee's jurisdiction, hundreds of thousands of barrels a day that we're just sitting here just waiting on approval, but National Marine Fisheries Service has acknowledged it's their error in their modeling system, and instead of just taking weeks for an LOA approval, which is historically what's happened under Republican and Democrat administrations, everything's frozen and been frozen for months and months and months. There are areas where we need to focus. I'm out of time.
Gentleman yields. Any further discussion on Mr. Graves' amendment number 4? Hearing no further debate. The question is on Graves' amendment number 4. I will pause so that members join remotely can unmute. All those in favor of Graves' amendment number 4, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to Graves' amendment number 4, please indicate by saying no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Graves,
I request a recorded vote.
a recorded vote has been requested. This vote will be postponed as per prior announcement. With that, I move the previous question on the Grijalva amendment in the nature of substitute. The motion is not subject to debate. The question is now on the motion. I will pause so that members join remotely can unmute. The
Mr. Chairman, I have a
motion,
parliamentary inquiry.
there is no debate on this motion to.
Mr.
the
Chairman, I have
previous-
a parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I still have, I believe, 3 amendments left on this legislation. I just want to understand, with you calling the question, the disposition of those 3 remaining amendments that help to address unaffordable energy prices caused by this administration and my ability to represent the constituents that sent me here. If you could just help me understand what that does to those 3 amendments?
Reclaiming my time, the question is now on the motion, and all those in favor of the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
previous
parliamentary
question-
inquiry. Could you please explain the disposition of my remaining amendments?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye on the non-debatable motion.
It's not debatable. A parliamentary inquiry is something that the chairman is
All those-
supposed to respond to.
All those in oppose indicate by saying no.
No.
And the opinion of the chairs, the
Mr. Chairman,
ayes
I have
have
a
it.
parliamentary
And the motion for the
parliamentary
previous
inquiry.
question on the ANS is agreed to.
Mr. Chair, is this on the ANS or amendments? What are,
The previous question to the ANS. The ayes have it, and the previous question is approved. Members in the hearing room have an electronic device. They use it. We will now return to the sequence votes as they appear. The clerk will call any members that are recorded.
Mr. Chair, I raise a point of order.
Mr. Westerman?
Mr. Chair, you did not call a previous question on all amendments. You just raised it on the ANS.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, that's what.
Let me, members in the hearing room will record their votes by electronic device, the clicker, and the process is similar to the House floor. Members can vote by pressing firmly yes or no or present buttons. The member's name will be highlighted on the screen to indicate that the system has registered their vote. Yes, yes, red, green, yes, red for no, and yellow for present. While the electronic voting is taking place, the chair will ask the clerk to call the names of the members not recorded. Members joining remotely can then vote by answering the clerk. Under House regulations, members online must be visible in order to vote. There is no exception for technical issues if voting remotely. Members attending virtually should answer the clerk by saying your name first and then your vote. This allows the camera enough time to switch to you and to reduce confusion. Now we return to previous requested recorded votes. The question is on the unfinished business, the amendments to ANS H.R. 263, the Big Cat Public Safety Act, the substitute designated Westerman number 77. Members are reminded, a recorded vote has been requested. Members are reminded under House rules, those voting remotely must be visible. The members should now vote.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, what are we actually voting on here?
We're voting on the substitute to an ANS designated Westerman number 77. And then we will vote on the substitute Bobert number 1, Graves number 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't had a vote on the previous question.
We did. We did.
Mr. Chairman, you didn't answer
Yes,
my
we did.
parliamentary inquiry. It is a parliamentary inquiry. Tell me how explaining to me the disposition of remaining amendments that have been filed is not a parliamentary inquiry. How is that not?
The question, we are now, the substitute designated Westerman number 77. Members will please record their votes to the president.
Mr. Chairman, I have a parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, I've got an amendment in there also. I'd like some answer to that also. Are we going to address these amendments or not?
Why are you afraid to tell the American people that you're shutting down our ability to represent? Why can't you just say it? Say it. You're shutting down our ability to represent the people that sent us here. Just say it. Just acknowledge it.
Dear Mr. Graves, you're not recognized. That is not an inquiry.
Well,
That's
from what
part of the
from
debate.
what I gather, rules don't matter because you're not even responding to a parliamentary inquiry, which you're required to do under the rules.
The members will please vote and indicating.
Mr. Chairman, I also have amendments that have not been addressed.
The vote is open on this.
Mr. Chairman, I think the democracy is gone out of this room.
Mr. Chair, is the clerk going to start calling the names?
Sablon votes no.
Madam Clerk, now, how the chair and the ranking member, or the chair and the ranking member recorded?
Mr. Chair, the chair was recorded as a no, and the ranking member is recorded as a.
The clerk will read the names of any members not recorded.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Brownlee?
Brownlee votes no.
Mr. Case?
Mr. Chair, what happened to my amendment that we have not voted on?
Mr. Cohen?
No.
Mr. Cohen votes no. Mr. Costa? Ms. Dingle?
Dingle votes no.
Dingle votes no. Mr. Garcia?
Garcia votes no.
This is an amendment.
Mr. Garcia votes no. Ms. Leger Fernandez?
No.
Ms.
Whitman.
Leger Fernandez votes no. Mr. Lowenthal?
Lowenthal votes no.
I don't ever want to hear another Democrat
Mr.
say,
Lowenthal votes no. Mr. McEachin?
McEachin votes no.
Mr. McEachin votes no. Mr. Neguse?
bunch of hypocrites.
Ms. Porter? Sorry, Mr. Sablon?
No.
Mr. Sablon votes no. Mr. San Nicolas?
The Nicholas votes no.
Mr. San Nicolas votes no. Ms. Talib?
Talib votes no.
Ms. Talib votes no. Mr. Tonko?
Tonko votes no.
Mr. Tonko votes no. Mr. Han? Ms. Velasquez?
Velasquez votes no.
Ms. Velasquez votes no. Ms. Bobert?
Boebert votes aye.
Ms. Bobert votes aye. Mr. Fulcher?
This behavior is why people hate Congress.
Could someone escort the lady to the mute button?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. The chairman doesn't follow the rules. I don't think I need.
Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
The rule was that the previous question passed, ended debate, and ended debate
There
on
was a
all
parliamentary-
following amendments.
You
That's
know
the
what's happening with
answer,
our admin-
and it's as plain as day, and if you don't want to accept it, but right now, we're not having a forum for your Twitter account. We're trying to take a vote here. Would the clerk continue?
Mr. Gomert? Ms. Gonzalez Colon?
Aye. Gonzalez votes yes.
Ms. Gonzalez Colon votes aye. Ms. Harrell? Mr. Heiss? Mr. McClintock?
Aye.
Mr. McClintock votes aye. Mrs. Radwagen?
Yes.
Mr. Tiffany?
Aye.
Mr. Tiffany votes aye. Mr. Webster?
Webster votes yay.
Mr. Webster?
Webster votes yay.
Mr. Webster votes aye.
Madam Clerk, Case votes no.
Trahan votes no.
Ms. Trahan votes no.
Madam Clerk, do you have Mr. Case recorded?
Mr. Case, I do not have you recorded.
No.
Mr. Case votes no.
Are there members who wish to vote or change their votes? If not, the vote is now closed, and the clerk will tally and report.
There are members who want their amendments recognized.
Mr. Chairman, that vote was not properly recorded. Congresswoman Boebert voted.
Excuse me?
Congresswoman Boebert voted, and she's not shown on the.
Boebert voted aye.
Excuse me, we're having a different vote up here reflected than what you actually have recorded there? Could somebody please get this sorted out?
That is, for those that are here on the dais present, and the total vote and the total tally includes the people that are voting via online.
Could we please just have one system, Mr. Chair, that we can look at so everybody in this room knows what's going on?
Good. Well, this was negotiated with the majority, what we're doing now, so Take it up with your own. Clerk?
Wasn't it also negotiated that we would have amendments put in order?
Mr. Chair, on this vote, the yeas are 16 and the nays are 23.
The amendment fails, and now we move to substitute designated Boebert number 1.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we had some confusion earlier. There was a parliamentary inquiry, and I had made a point of order asking what we were voting on, and the point of order was not addressed, and we were not given an opportunity to ask for a roll call on the previous question. So I know the ship's probably already sailed on that one, but I want the record to reflect that the point of order was not addressed, and we were not given an opportunity to ask for a recorded vote on the previous question, or what the previous question was about.
The substitute designated Boebert number 1, the clerk shall open the electronic vote. Members will record their votes that are present, and why do I have to ask that? Madam Clerk, how are the chair and ranking member recorded?
On this vote, the chair is recorded as a no, and the ranking member is recorded as a yes.
The clerk will now read the names of any members not recorded.
Ms. Brownlee?
Brownlee votes no.
Ms. Brownlee votes no. Mr. Case? Mr. Cohen? Ms. Dingle?
Dingle votes no.
Ms. Dingle votes no. Mr. Garcia?
Garcia votes no.
Mr. Garcia votes no. Ms. Ledger Fernandez? Mr. Lowenthal?
Lowenthal votes no.
Mr. Lowenthal votes no. Mr. McEachin?
McEachin votes no.
Mr. McEachin votes no.
Ledger Fernandez votes no.
Ms. Ledger Fernandez votes no. Mr. Neguse? Mr. Sablon?
Saban votes no.
Mr. Sablon votes no. Mr. San Nicolas?
So Nicholas votes no.
Mr. San Nicolas votes no. Ms. Talib?
Talib votes no.
Ms. Talib votes no. Mr. Tonko?
Tonko votes no.
Mr. Tonko votes no. Ms. Tran?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Han?
I think we're going to get off this hybrid thing, man.
Trahan votes no.
Mr. Han votes no. Ms. Velasquez? Mrs. Boebert? Mr. Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I represent the great state of Alabama, and I think our voices being silenced is horrible, horrible. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, sir. I vote yes.
Mr. Carl votes yes. Mr. Gomert? Ms. Gonzalez-Colon?
Gonzalez Colon votes aye.
Ms. Gonzalez-Colon votes aye. Ms. Harrell? Mr. Heiss? Mr. McClintock?
Aye.
Mr. McClintock votes aye. Ms. Radewagen? Mr. Tiffany? Mr. Tiffany votes aye. Mr. Webster?
Who wish to, have not voted and wish to vote or change their vote?
Boebert votes aye.
Mrs. Boebert votes aye.
Mr.
Anyone else?
Webster votes yay.
Mr. Webster votes aye.
Mr. Webster votes aye.
If no other member wishes to vote or change their vote,
Tap. Goddamn fucking.
the vote is now closed and the clerk will tally and report.
Mr. Chair, on this vote, the yeas are 16 and the nays are 22.
The substitute fails. Now we go to amendment designated Graves number 2. The electronic voting is open. Members will record their vote. Madam Clerk, how are the chair and ranking member recorded?
On this vote, the chair is recorded as a no, and the ranking member is recorded as a yes.
The clerk will now read the names of any members not recorded.
Ms. Brownlee?
Brownlee, no.
Ms. Brownlee votes no. Mr. Case? Mr. Cohen?
This fucking thing's not working. Unmuting. What's wrong with the fucking phone? I'm trying to vote.
Ms. Dingle?
Single votes no.
Ms. Dingle votes no. Mr. Garcia?
Garcia votes no.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Clerk, proceed.
Mr. Garcia?
Garcia votes no.
Mr. Garcia votes no. Ms. Leisure Fernandez?
Leisure Fernandez votes no.
Ms. Leisure Fernandez votes no. Mr. Lowenthal?
Mr. Lowenthal votes no.
Mr. Lowenthal votes no. Mr. McEachin?
McEachin votes no.
Mr. McEachin votes no. Mr. Neguse? Mr. Sablon?
Sablon votes no.
Mr. Sablon votes no. Mr. San Nicolas?
Okay. Nicholas votes no.
Mr. San Nicolas votes no. Ms. Talib?
Talib votes no.
Ms. Talib votes no. Mr. Tonko?
Taco votes no.
Mr. Tonko votes no. Ms. Trahan?
Votes no.
Ms. Trahan votes no. Ms. Velasquez? Mrs. Boebert?
Boebert votes aye.
Mrs. Boebert votes aye. Mr. Carl?
Mr. Carl, aye.
Mr. Carl votes aye. Mr. Gomert? Ms. Gonzalez-Colon?
Gonzalez-Colon votes aye.
Ms. Gonzalez-Colon votes aye. Mr. Graves?
Mr. Chair, how am I recorded? This is Mr. Neguse.
Mr. Neguse is not recorded.
Neguse votes no.
Mr. Neguse votes no. Mr. Graves? Ms. Harrell? Mr. Heiss? Mr. McClintock?
Aye.
Mr. McClintock votes aye. Ms. Radewagen? Mr. Rosendale?
Rosendale, aye.
Mr. Rosendale votes aye. Mr. Webster?
How is Mr. Cohen recorded?
Mr. Cohen is not recorded.
No. And no on everything else. For the
Mr.
last-
Cohen votes no.
Was that a no on final passage, or?
To vote or to change their vote. They're not recorded. If not, the vote is closed and the clerk will tally and report.
Mr. Chair, on this vote, the yeas are 14 and the nays are 24.
The amendment fails. Amendment designated Graves number 3. The electronic vote is now open. And Madam Clerk, how are the chair and ranking member recorded?
On this vote, the chair is recorded as a no and the ranking member is recorded as a yes.
If the clerk would please read the names of any members not recorded.
Ms. Brownlee?
Brownlee, no.
Ms. Brownlee votes no. Mr. Case? Mr. Cohen? Ms. Dingle?
Dingles, no.
Ms. Dingle votes no.
Cohen, no. Was that Cohen, no?
Mr. Cohen votes no. Mr. Garcia? Ms.
Garcia's
Leisure-
a no.
Mr. Garcia votes no. Ms. Leisure Fernandez? Mr. Lowenthal?
No.
Mr. Lowenthal votes no. Oh, excuse me. Ms. Leisure Fernandez votes no. Mr. Lowenthal?
Lowenthal votes no.
Mr. Lowenthal also votes no. Mr. McEachin?
Mr. Graves, a yes.
Mr. McEachin?
McEachin.
Mr. McEachin?
McEachin votes no.
Thank you. Mr. McEachin votes no. Mr. Neguse?
No.
Mr. Neguse votes no. Mr. Sablon?
Sablon votes no.
Mr. Sablon votes no. Mr. San Nicolas?
Nicholas votes no.
Mr. San Nicolas votes no. Mr. Soto? Ms. Tlaib? Mr. Tonko? Ms. Trahan?
Trahan votes no.
Ms. Trahan votes no. Ms. Velasquez? Mrs. Boebert? Mr. Gomert? Ms. Gonzalez-Colon?
Gonzalez Colon votes aye.
Ms. Gonzalez-Colon votes aye. Mr. Graves?
Graves, yes.
Mr. Graves votes yes. Ms. Harrell? Mr. Heiss? Mr. McClintock?
I heard that she thought it was.
Ms. Radewagen?
McClintock, aye.
Mr. McClintock?
This is on the amendment, aye.
Thank you. Mr. McClintock votes aye. Ms. Radewagen.
Boebert votes aye.
Ms. Boebert votes aye. Ms. Radewagen. Mr. Rosendale.
Rosendale, aye.
Mr. Rosendale votes aye. Mr. Webster.
Webster votes yay.
Mr. Webster votes yay.
Members that wish to be recorded that are not recorded.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, it's Mr. Tanko. How am I recorded?
Mr. Tonko?
Mr. Tonko is not recorded.
Tanko votes no.
Mr. Tonko votes no.
Madam Clerk, how is Talib voted?
Ms. Talib is not recorded.
Talib votes no.
Ms. Talib votes no.
If there are no other members, the vote is now closed. The clerk will tally and report. What are we on now, 4? Clerk will report. Oh, no. Now what?
Mr. Chair, on this vote, the yeas, the yeas are 16 and the nays are 24.
The amendment fails. Now we move to a recorded vote on amendment designated graves number 4. Electronic voting is open. Madam Clerk, how are the chair and ranking member recorded?
On this vote, the chair is recorded as a no and the ranking member is recorded as a yes.
And the clerk will now read the names of any members not recorded.
Ms. Brownlee.
Brownlee, no.
Ms. Brownlee votes no. Mr. Case.
No.
Mr. Case votes no. Mr. Cohen.
No. No, I voted no earlier, didn't I?
Mr. Cohen votes no. Ms. Dingle.
Dingle votes no.
Mrs. Dingle votes no. Mr. Garcia.
Garcia votes no.
Mr. Garcia votes no. Mr. Lowenthal.
Mr. Lowenthal votes no.
Mr. Lowenthal votes no. Mr. McEachin.
Hey.
I'm sorry, Mr. McEachin. Can you repeat that, please?
McEachin votes no.
Thank you. Mr. McEachin votes no. Mr. Neguse. Mr. Sablon.
No.
Mr. Sablon votes
no.
oh. Mr. Neguse votes no.
No.
And Mr. Sablon votes no.
Thank you.
Mr. San Nicolas.
San Nicolas votes no.
Mr. San Nicolas votes no. Ms. Talib.
Talib votes no.
Ms. Talib votes no. Mr.
Madam
Tonko.
Clerk, how's Mr. Neguse recorded?
Mr. Neguse is recorded as a no.
Thank you.
Mr. Tonko. Ms. Trahan.
Trahan votes no.
Ms. Trahan votes no. Ms. Velasquez. Mrs. Boebert.
Boebert votes aye.
Mrs. Boebert votes aye. Mr. Gomert. Ms. Gonzalez-Colon.
Gonzalez Colon votes aye.
Ms. Gonzalez-Colon votes aye. Mr. Graves. Ms. Harrell. Mr. Heiss. Mr. McClintock.
Aye.
Mr. McClintock votes aye. Mrs. Radewagen. Mr. Rosendale.
Rosendale, aye.
Mr. Rosendale votes aye. Mr. Webster.
Webster votes yay.
Mr. Webster votes yay.
Any member not recorded that wishes to record their vote or change their vote?
Mr. Chairman, it's Paul Taco. How am I recorded, please?
Mr. Tonko?
Mr. Tonko is not recorded.
Taco votes no. Thank you.
Mr. Tonko votes no.
Mr. Chairman, how am I recorded? Graves?
Mr. Graves is not recorded.
Yes.
Mr. Graves votes yes.
Thank you.
If there's no other members, the vote is now closed. The clerk will please tally and report. What's this number?
Mr. Chair, on this vote, the yeas are 16 and the nays are 25.
The amendment fails. The question is now on the Grijalva ANS to H.R. 263. Members joining remotely can unmute. Isn't this a recorded vote? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no.
No.
The opinion of chair, the ayes have it, and the ANS is agreed to. The question is now on adopting H.R. 263 as amended in order and favorably reported to the House. Members joining remotely will unmute. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no.
No.
The opinion of chair, the ayes have it, and the bill is adopted as amended.
Chairman, we request the yeas
The
and nays.
recorded votes have been requested. The clerk will, the electronic vote is now open. Members will record their votes.
But anyways, long story short,
Madam Clerk, how are the chair and ranking member recorded?
On this vote, the chair is recorded as a yes and the ranking member is recorded as a no.
The clerk will now read the names of any members not recorded.
Ms. Brownlee.
Actually,
Brownlee, aye.
The Democrat.
so
I'm sorry, Ms. Brownlee?
Brownlee, aye.
Ms. Brownlee votes aye.
right now.
Mr. Cohen.
Aye.
Mr. Cohen votes aye. Mrs. Dingle.
Dingle votes aye.
Mrs. Dingle votes aye. Mr. Garcia.
Garcia votes aye.
Mr. Garcia votes aye. Mr. Lowenthal. Mr. McEachin.
McEachin votes aye.
Mr. McEachin votes aye.
Lowenthal votes aye.
Mr. Lowenthal votes aye. Mr. Neguse.
But the reason why everything is urgent, right?
Mr. Sablon.
Sablon votes aye.
Mr. Sablon votes aye. Mr. San Nicolas.
St. Nicholas votes yes.
Mr. San Nicolas votes yes. Ms. Talib.
Talib votes yes.
Ms. Talib votes yes. Mr. Tonko.
Taco votes yes.
Mr. Tonko votes yes. Mr. Han.
Trahan votes yes.
Mr. Han votes yes.
How is Mr. Neguse recorded?
Mr. Neguse is not recorded.
Neguse votes yes.
Mr. Neguse votes yes. Ms. Velasquez. Mrs. Boebert.
Boebert votes no.
Mrs. Boebert votes no. Mr. Gomert.
Gomer votes no.
Mr. Gomert votes no. Ms. Gonzalez-Colon.
Gonzalez-Colon votes no.
Ms. Gonzalez-Colon votes no. Mr. Graves.
Graves is no.
Mr. Graves votes no. Ms. Harrell. Mr. Heiss. Mr. McClintock.
No.
Mr. McClintock votes no. Mrs. Radwagon. Mr. Rosendale.
Rosendale, nay.
Mr. Rosendale votes no. Mr. Webster.
Webster votes nay.
Mr. Webster votes no.
All the members who wish to vote recorded or any wish to change their vote? Identify with the clerk. If not, the vote is closed. The clerk would please tally the vote and report.
Mr. Chair, on this vote, the yeas are 25 and the nays are 17.
The ayes have it. The bill is adopted as amended and ordered favorably reported to the House. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.